And so now it is time for my favorite midweek segment, Carving Up the Context. Roll the clip. On today's edition of Carving Up the Context, I saw a story and it was, I'm reading it and I'm thinking this is completely lacking context. According to multiple reports, Brock Purdy, in 197 training camp throws, has thrown 10 interceptions. Hide, guys, hide. He threw 10 picks. He threw 10. Yeah, I know it's pretty alarming. Except when you consider the fact that it's training camp. You try throws in training camp that you don't try in regular season games. You work out the kinks mechanically and with your receivers against your defense. By the way, of which the Niners defense is, the best in football. They have, and this is without Nick Bosa, who's holding out as we speak. They have Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga. They've got elite players in the interior defensive line. They've got Drake Greenlaw. Elite players defensively. Brock Purdy will not play another defense this season that is as good as the San Francisco 49ers. Thank God for his sake, they happen to be his teammates. They happen to be helping him out to try and win football games this season for San Francisco. This whole quarterback, I've been hearing this whole quarterback controversy in San Francisco. Is it Purdy? Is it Lance? Is it Sam Darnold? I think the Niners and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have handled this situation perfectly throughout the offseason. In saying, if Purdy is healthy, if he recovers from this elbow surgery, which he has, he's been cleared, as we see, obviously, to throw at practice, he's the starter until proven otherwise. I think John Lynch had a quote talk about, like, he would have to be truly awful. I mean, awful beyond, like, oh my God, who is this dude? Is this the Mr. Irrelevant we drafted and not the guy that won 8 starts for us last year and went 8-0? He'd have to be truly awful to lose the job to, again, we got to remember who we're talking about here. Sam Darnold, who, and I really liked Sam in 2018, but he's a bust. He's going to be a backup quarterback for the rest of his career. By the way, good backup. Sam Darnold's a good backup. Won some games with Carolina last year. He was fine. Or Trey Lance, who folks know I loved in 2021. Here's the problem. He's not accurate at all. Not even in the slightest. Given what the Niners gave up to get him with the 3rd overall pick, you don't think that if it was close between Lance and Purdy that they wouldn't give Lance the go, because they didn't start Purdy. Purdy wasn't the guy. Or I'm sorry, that they didn't give up a lot to get Purdy. He's Mr. Relevant. He's 1 pick away from being undrafted. And I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of props today talking about the interceptions. He said, and I quote, "You never want interceptions in any situation. There's never one answer. Each one's different. But I definitely like having interceptions a lot more in practice than in games. And one thing Brock does is he lets it rip. He's not worried about anything else. Especially not worried about people counting his interceptions at practice." That's been a real weird thing that I've seen throughout all training camp. Oh, Dak's thrown this many interceptions. Like, are we really counting this? Jimmy Garoppolo, not a Jimmy G fan at all. That's again a Jimmy G in just a second for this Carving Up the Context segment. Jimmy G throwing picks. Oh my God, the sky is falling. God forbid quarterbacks throw the ball to the other team every once in a while, especially when it's the best defense in football that Brock Purdy is practicing against. And we're going to freak out and act like, oh, he's going to have a huge regression in year 2. No, let's not ignore the fact that in 8 starts, not 2, 3, not Bailey Zappi size, like half the season essentially, if you include the playoff games, Brock Purdy led the NFL in passer rating. You say, oh, it's the talent in San Francisco. Was Jimmy G doing that? Trey Lance doing that? Was Nick Mullins a couple years ago? Was he doing that? I don't think so. Not saying Brock Purdy is the second coming of Kurt Warner. No, I'm not saying that. But he's a very good starting quarterback in the NFL. He's proven that. And again, for San Francisco, they don't need him to be special. This whole, can Brock Purdy take this big leap? He didn't have to. Folks, The San Francisco 49ers in 2019 and in 2021 won a combined 4 playoff games, including 2 on the road. With Jimmy G putting up this stat line, by the way, this including their losses in those playoffs in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs and in the NFC Championship game against the eventual champion that year, Los Angeles Rams. Here's Jimmy G's playoff stats. I always bring this out every once in a while, but here it's very important. Jimmy G, 160 yards per game. That's not great. 4 touchdowns, 6 picks, a 2 to 3 touchdown interception ratio. That's what we would call bad. 61% completion, average to below average. 74 passer rating, right at average, but a 4-2 record. Not only do they not need Brock Purdy to be special, if Brock Purdy is any semblance of what he was a year ago, Niners the best team in the NFC, and it's not even close. Philly's good. Philly's good. Dallas, we'll see. Detroit, I got them going to the conference championship game unless they play San Francisco. This team is as good as we've seen in the NFL from a roster standpoint. The fact that we are freaking out. By the way, again, can we just take a moment? He's in year 2. What did I just talk about to start the show with Anthony Richardson? It takes years to see what the finished product is, what the peak of his powers is going to be. We're not even going to see that from Brock Purdy this year. We're going to see that in the future. In all likelihood with San Francisco. So this whole freaking out about the interceptions, first of all, he's practicing against the best defense in the NFL that happens to be his teammates. And you try throws in practice that you would never try in a game. By the way, people freaking out about Deshaun Watson. I'm not high on Deshaun Watson this season, but it's not because, oh my God, he threw a pick in practice. Come on. We're overreacting. I know we're desperate for football. I understand that. I'm desperate for football too. But let's not make stories where it's not really not a story. It's a non-story. It's irrelevant. Now, Brock Purdy throws 10 picks in the first, 5-6 weeks of the season. Okay, then that's different. Then we can have that conversation like, okay, there might have been something to that. Only time will tell. With Purdy, with Garoppolo, who I think is limited to begin with Dak, with Deshaun, only time will tell. But only time will tell, but I don't think it's going to be because, they're just handing it to the other team in practice. Especially with the Niners, that's not who we need to be freaking out about. Come on. It's not go nuts here. It's not go nuts. Whew. And that is this week's edition of Carving Up the Context. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.